Welcome to Virtual Bourbon. My name is Steve Akley. We've got a very special edition today because joining me is my fellow St. Louisan, though he doesn't live in St. Louis now, Will Whitfield. Hey, Will, how you doing, man?
Hey, how you doing? How's everybody else going?
Doing good. Doing good. Thumbs up. Yeah. All right. Okay. So I've known Will for a while and through social media. So we met on Instagram and we have met in person too. So he is, like I said, from St. Louis. He came back to visit some family. It's been a while ago now, but when you came back, we went and had some coffee one day. So that was kind of cool. And just a great opportunity to meet and hear more about you and the things that you've got going on. And so tell us a little bit about this passion for cooking, though, that kind of got us to where we're at today. Here, we're going to do a cooking class for a group.
Now, it started a while ago as a little lad. No, it actually stems back to as early as like 7 or 8. I can remember actually going to the school library. I went to a school back then called Wilkerson, which was not too far off of Hampton by the zoo.
Yeah.
I want to say it's Maple. I think it's gone now. It changed to Dewey School, which is right there off of the highway. Anyway, I can remember grabbing a cookbook, an Italian cookbook for kids, and I came home and I was, hey, I want to make dinner. And Mom let me make dinner, but she told me if I had to do that, I had to go shopping. So I had to go learn how to shop and also
Step
cook
one.
at the same time.
Learn how to shop.
Yeah, step one. Yeah, let's just shop. So it that just developed. It kind of was on a lull, I'll say, until we got married. And even then, when we first got married, my wife did most of the cooking. But I guess we got a few years in, it's like you got to find something to do to channel our energies to. She started painting, and I started focusing on more cooking. And when I got actually out here, it really took off and started honing that craft and learning different genres and cuisines and stuff that really just focus on certain techniques that go along with certain actual meals. So it's been developing in slow progress, but now it's my safe haven. If I come home from work and my wife see bags in my hands, she know I had a bad day and it's time for Daddy to cook. So that's my getaway. That's my zen. That's how I do it. So.
Mm-hmm. And you've even, like I said, we talked a little bit just informally here about barbecue competitions and that, but that's something that you're into as well, right?
Yes. That is very recent. I met also a gentleman. He has a group called Meat Hustlers, and he just it's just a platform for all kind of people around the world, as far as Australia, and we just talk about barbecue. So I met him. He's out of Portland, and he just invited me down to a barbecue event. I think about 4 years ago. So I drove down there and met him, and we sat down and talked. And a year later, I was in an event. He was like, man, you could do this. I've seen your page. You could do it. You could do it. You could do it. And I got the approval from the wife, talked to her about it, and went to my first event. And here we are now, I want to say 4 years later and full blown. What the funny thing is, my family went to their first barbecue event with me, I want to say earlier this year. And then now they're all invested. Like my wife's like, what is all of this? And so now the whole family
got into the whole scene of it then. Yeah.
Whole team. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's cool. So yeah, it's got to be rewarding to, because I know before that you were just kind of cooking for friends, family, that type of thing. In a competition, it doesn't matter how you do, if you win, place, or show, any of that stuff. Just being there to get the feedback from the public at large has to be a cool thing to do in these events.
It's funny because I look at it as twofold. One of my favorite parts about going to the event is not even the public. It's this money hour that we all talk about in that field. When we usually set up on Saturday, we shut down, and about 7 o'clock we have our first meeting, and it's just us and the competitors from 7 to about 9 o'clock that next morning. And everybody's just mingling, talking about their secrets and little things that are happening. And it's this real loving, embracing community. I learned that on the first time I went there, my first event ever. I'm pulling up and I'm popping a tent, and it broke within 15 minutes of me showing up. A $200 tent crumpled, flew into the lake. everybody's running. Hey, Will, you need help? What are you doing by yourself? Usually these guys have like 5 or 6 team members, and I was by myself. But everybody like ponied up and started helping me out. And I was like, they don't even know me yet.
Right.
They're offering me all kind of stuff. So it was pretty humbling, and it sucked me in right at that moment.
Yeah, that's really cool to see. So yeah, your network within the barbecue community, and there is such a thing, I would assume, that it grows. I mean, you get to know more people from, I'm sure, across the country. Really, I mean, it's not just local competitors in some of these things. So
I've from California to all the way on the East Coast. There's people that have rubs and seasoning. I've gotten to know pretty well. As far as New York, where we keep in touch about family. So that's one of my personal beliefs, is that cooking and music are one of the last few things that bond us as a society.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what, we all eat the same ingredients. It's just mixed up a little bit different, but it's hard to be mad at a person when you're eating the meal with them.
Right.
So
right.
That's a good way to break everything.
Whiskey's another one to add to the mix too. Yeah.
But it goes hand in hand. A meal and whiskey are right next to each other.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, we've got a fun event today. And again, this is very informal today. Everybody's on mute, which is great, but you can take yourself off mute at any time if you have a question. I also suggest that you hit the button at the top. That gives you a speaker view versus gallery view. I like the one with all of them because Will does have a couple cameras set up. So when he's talking, the one that is going to be right into his face is going to show that. But it's better if you have the view that shows everybody, because then you can see as he's preparing and doing it as well. So you can see both going on at the same time. So if you're just have the view where he's talking, you don't get to see what he's doing to prepare this stuff. So that's a key part of it. All right, Will, we're going to turn it over to you, man. What are we cooking up today? And I know there's a drinking component to this. And what are you drinking?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. That is probably why I love to cook so much, is because I drink when I cook. So one of my favorite beverages, old fashions, and I had an old fashioned like a year ago in Vegas that changed my world. And it was all based on their simple syrup that they use. So I've been tinkering with different versions of the simple syrup that I learned. So the first thing I'm gonna do is actually make a drink that we have. You can see this pretty good right here.
Yeah.
What I have is some smoked candied oranges. So what I've done with those is I actually dredged those in, and I'll show you in a second. I dredged those in one of these bourbons that I have. A backstop. One of my favorite distilleries is the Willett family. I absolutely adore everything from the rye down to pure Kentucky. And so that's going to be the inspiration of a lot of our glazes and bases for our meal, is tying those in. So this actual orange right here, what I did was I used in the old Bardstown. I hope you guys see that.
Yep. Yeah.
And then how you can do this at home, I'll start back and put this to the side, it's a simple method. And all you do is you take some oranges, you slice them. What I have is a mixture right here of just half and half brown sugar and sugar, just regular raw sugar. You can add cinnamon in there. You can do a bunch of different variations in there. And what you do is you kind of dredge those in the alcohol. Now, you don't have to use the alcohol. You can use it if you're serving it for kids or whatever. You can just use regular water. But in the spirit, the fact that I'm using this for a beverage, you press it in there. And make sure it gets a little paste on it. So it's going to stick in it here.
Mm-hmm.
We let that set up for a little while. And then what we do from that point, make sure that gets all over there too. Now, if you don't have a smoker or a grill, you can use your oven at 350. And what you do is you set it on a tray or a pan or a glass pan, and you cook it. And what it'll do is it'll glaze up. You flip it halfway through the process, And as you see it caramelize, that's when you take it out, let it cool, and it'll become sticky. The reason why you kind of want that sticky is because it's going to add to that actual old fashioned.
That's cool.
So along with that simple syrup, now my simple syrup that I made, let me get this out of the way.
Well, you could use that in a lot of different recipes, so that's really cool.
Actually, it's funny. I've learned that you can use those oranges in a lot of different recipes. I've used it actually in sides and done this and chopped this up and mixed it in broccoli, cauliflower, roasted it all together, and it comes out wonderfully. I mean, that candy, you eat the whole peel and everything. It's pretty amazing. Now, my simple syrup, I don't know if everybody knows how to make simple syrup. It's pretty much just sugar and water. But this that I made right here is apple water, cinnamon, and nutmeg. And that was the key. The nutmeg actually sends it over the top for that beverage. Now, I'm going to do this the right way. When I'm just doing this for myself, I'm not actually measuring this thing. So I'll do it the correct, responsible way.
So with your simple syrup there, you take your what was the ingredients again real quick? Because you kind of cut out for just
I'll show you real quickly. Okay. Let me set this to the side. So what you do in a simple syrup is I already have this set up, and let's see if we can get this together. All this is if you're writing this down, it's equal parts water, brown sugar, sugar, and then like a tablespoon of cinnamon, and then a teaspoon of nutmeg. Okay. And what you do is you can just take that over to get this going over here. I got a couple things going. I'll try to move this as I. All right, so we just let that dissolve into a pan, pot, and once that gets dissolved, we'll start boiling it. And then from there, after you have it boiled, you let it cool, and then just put it in a refrigerator, and that's it. Okay. So the syrup is pretty basic.
Well, as soon as it hits boil, is that it, or does it have to boil for a certain amount of time until?
There's no time on it. Once it boils.
Once it hits the boil, it's good. Okay, pull it off.
Yeah, it's. I'm gonna actually have to try it one day, but I believe that if you just actually let it dissolve, it'll probably do this trick. But it's a chemical reaction in it, so you should let it boil. And once it boils, that's done. Pull it off. Okay. Let it cool before you use it.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So with this old fashioned, this has been used before, as you can tell. A couple shots of bitters, a little bit of the simple syrup. Now, depending on how you want this to sit in there, I usually let it rest inside of there, let it sit. And the best cherries on the planet by far when it comes to that old fashioned are the Luxardos. I can't pronounce that to save my life, but
Luxardos, yes.
What bitters are you using? Are you just using Angostura, or do you have a specific bitters? What bitters are you using? Are you using Angostura, or do you have a specific brand you prefer?
I just prefer this the Fee Brothers right here. I don't know if I can see it very well or not.
Those are good.
Yeah, those are readily available. So yeah.
Yeah, the Fee Brothers, and if you look at them at these places, you have variations of these. They have some that they say they have more smoked, and some that actually have bourbon essence in there. But I just use a regular bitters for that goes with this. And that's pretty much it for that old fashioned right there. That's okay. There's like 50 different ways you can make that thing. But the key for me was that candied, the orange. Mm-hmm. I lost my thought there. But the candied orange sets it off, and the nutmeg that's in there makes it amazing.
Okay. Sounds great.
I guess I better drink this so it doesn't go bad.
Cheers, buddy.
I kind of want to know what everybody else is drinking too. What is everybody else drinking? I'm not used to having silence like this.
I've got Willett Rye. This is what I'm drinking. I thought I got to go with the theme here, so
okay,
that's what I've got.
I have Willett pot still.
Okay.
Nice.
I've got a Willett 12-year-old.
Willett 12. Everyone's doing good. They're going with the theme here. Okay.
Wow.
The Robinsons.
Wow.
What do you guys got? Water.
Been a little bit.
Yeah, we're gonna be driving here soon, so.
Okay.
Gotcha. Tim, what do you got there, man?
I've got the Willett 12-year Family Reserve Bourbon.
Okay. Mr. Brenner.
Oh, I'm varying off the theme. I just grabbed it when sitting next to the computer, which was Remus Volstead.
Ah, okay.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah.
Still a good pick.
Looks like we got Carrie and Justine there.
All righty.
What do you guys got, Carrie and Justine? I think you're on mute. Sorry.
I was trying to unmute. We broke as well. I don't own any Willett. So it's Knob Creek Dry.
Knob Creek. Okay. There you go. Winston, you got to follow the theme here, right?
Actually not at all. So with World Whiskey Day yesterday, I opened a Hibiki 17, so I'm having some more of that tonight.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice.
And the other gentleman there that says the Cozeds.
Yes. Did you bake the orange slices there, or just let them soak up the sugar?
So actually the ones that I did, I put them on my smoker, the grill, and I put it at 300, and I just watched it. I didn't do anything when it came to time. I wanted to get it for a color. I was going for a color on it. But you can do the same thing in the oven. So if you put the oven at 350 and put them on a basic sheet pan, and just watch for the color that you're looking for. And as they get to that color and settle, you let them cool, then all that tacky gooiness will stick up and it'll become like a candy. It's actually a similar process in candying lemons, limes. You can do the same process on any one of those citrus items.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Charles, are you joining us for a drink here, or you just you don't have to, of course, but are you just watching?
Okay. All righty. Well, the next thing we'll talk about is the basic glaze that I'm using for the wings and also for the pork tenderloin.
Okay.
And it's a variation of, if you go on the Pinterest or the internet, this used to be called the Jack Daniel TGI glaze. So it's like this folklore glaze that was out there from TGIF restaurant that Jack Daniel put out years ago. And what I did was I just tweaked that actual recipe to fit any whiskey that you wanted to do. And you can use this glaze literally on anything from burgers, salmon, pork, vegetables. It is amazing. So there's like 50 different variations on there, but the one that I'm using now, I'll give you the rundown if anybody's taking notes on it. It contains water, pineapple juice, teriyaki sauce, soy sauce, brown sugar, lemon juice, minced onions, whiskey, cayenne, and roasted garlic. I'll give you the measurements here in a second.
Okay.
So what I started off, and I've actually was showing you the brown sugar here. That was a good measurement that you can use for the simple syrup. But in this one right here, I've started with 2 cups of water. I have some pineapple juice sitting over here. You want to go with 2 cups of pineapple juice also. So when you get your liquids in there, then you're going to do with, let me go with that, a half a cup of teriyaki sauce. And any brand will do the trick. Get that all in there. Get that in there. Your soy sauce. And at that point, we're going to put this back on the eye, and you're going to boil that also. So get that to a rolling boil. And at that rolling boil, once that hit, then you add the rest of your ingredients. What I did was I roasted some garlic ahead of time. And you can just get whole chunks of garlic. You can peel them yourself. I put a little olive oil in the oven for 400 degrees until they get to this nice color, like this roasted brown color. Do that. Put that in there. I also get, you can do crushed. The recipe tells you crushed. I like to get the chunk, actual pineapples. You add that in there. Once that's rolling, the very last thing you add is your lemon juice. And I'm going to take this over here real quickly so hopefully we can see this together. This is going to be fun. All right. Can we see that?
Yeah.
All righty. That right there is the glaze that is happening right here. Now, I love the chunks in there. You don't have to leave the chunks. You can actually strain this. You can puree it. I just take it and I just kind of, because these are now softened and awesome. So what I'm gonna do is I'll take that and I'll puree that a little bit, set it, let it cool on the side.
Okay.
And then that is ready to glaze anything that you want to glaze or whatever you're gonna use it. So I'm gonna set this off to the side now. It is off, and I'll start getting the other meats and proteins ready and let that just kind of cool, because you never want to actually use it hot like that. It'll actually start cooking your meat ahead of time.
Makes sense. Yeah. And I like how you, I mean, it's like a real cooking show here. You had one ready to go, and then you prepared one for us, second one.
Well, I've actually got 3 of those things. So I've already,
this is very professional.
Behind it. I'm sorry.
You've kicked up the level of our professionalism on these. Now you're setting a new standard for us.
Okay, we forgot to mention the disclaimer. I am not a professional by any means. First and foremost, I am just a plumber for the last 25 years in a local. This is just a passion. So please don't hold me to that standard, you guys.
Right.
So now that we got that sauce going, it's bubbling over there. And I'm getting my hands going. Now let's go to what I'm going to say is the star of the event. So pork tenderloin. I'm going to go with this first because it's going to take longer to actually cook. And then we'll bounce back and do the actual chicken wings.
Okay.
So whenever you get a pork tenderloin, the main thing you want to look for is make sure it's got a nice little, nice little fat cap onto it. But you want to remove any silver skin. And what that means is, usually when you look at the ribs, or if you ever done ribs, the backside of it is a membrane.
Yeah.
It's just a tough tendon that sits on there. You remove that because it's just going to make for a better bite. If you don't, it's not the end of the world. I promise you, it's not the end of the world. It'll be okay.
That's a really good tip, though, because I've seen restaurants make that mistake. They forget about it on ribs, and then your ribs are chewy.
Yeah. It makes the world of a difference. Now, there are people that will argue in this field that it is okay to leave that on there. So if you're in certain areas, people argue that. And it's like, no, just take it off. It's so much better. It allows the smoke to penetrate the meat from both sides.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Just do it. It's not that hard. So even with your pork tenderloin, so a little history on this. This is sitting on, I wish I had a set of ribs to show you. Now I shouldn't say it. But this is connected to your ribs. So you got your pork loin that's on the portion of your spare ribs. In St. Louis, we're known for the spare ribs. At least the Midwest is. And if you go further south, you know, there's more of the baby back or going there. But we're going to do this. And what you're going to do is season this with whatever rub you want. Now, this is a house-made rub. I'll give you most of the ingredients, but I can't tell you it all.
That's fair.
But
that's fair.
If you look up any basic barbecue rub, it's going to have sugar, brown sugar, onion powder, mustard powder, or mustard, ground mustard. It's going to have cayenne, chili powder, paprika. Now, that balance is up to you. If you want more of that traditional barbecue color, you're going to have more paprika and brown sugar than you have the other stuff. So this rub, I'll give you this. A typical rub is like 2 cups brown sugar, a 1/4 cup of regular sugar. You want a cup of paprika, a tablespoon of mustard, ground mustard, a tablespoon of your onion powder, and then you're going to want like a teaspoon of cayenne. But if you want more spice, add more spice. I will say that much. I use this, and this is a place out here in Spokane, Spiceology, but they're really more of the bulk. But I use this honey habanero to add into my rub because I need that extra little kick. But if you want more kick, add more chili powder, or you can use chili flakes. Anyway, we're gonna just make sure we get this in. That's just getting crazy. Let's use the right one. William, where is your shaker? Ah, here we go. Told you it's not professional. So you use this. Now, here is probably the most important tip that I can tell you when it comes to barbecuing, when it comes to actually cooking any, when I say a large portion of meat, is any hunk of meat that you have. Let it rest. They're going to call it the meat sweats. What happens is you allow this actual seasoning to penetrate the meat. Sometimes you might brine your chicken. The point of brining your chicken or brining a meat is to close up the pores to allow the juices to stay in when you cook. So in essence, what we're doing is like a quick dry brine. So we pat this in. You don't rub it in. You just pat it in. I lost my camera. Camera down. Okay, this is not good. There we go. We're back.
You're back.
Okay, sorry. We'll let this sit for a few seconds. And then actually, if you let it sit for like 15, 20 minutes, you'll see it start to tack up and glaze, and the moisture, as it sits with this, it'll be really sticky. So make sure you do that at any time you're making any large cut of meat. Let it rest, get the meat sweats. For the sake of time, we're going to keep going though.
Okay.
Now, any kind of bacon will work. The trick with it is making sure you have it layered in the right. If you ever look at bacon, bacon is just pork belly that's sliced and smoked, pre-cured. You want to make sure it's lined up together. And if you ever look at bacon, there's uniformed. So you want it all to go the same way for a reason. Because as this cooks, it shrinks up. It's going to shrink up about the same. All right. So make sure you have an idea how much bacon you need. This is probably about a foot-long tenderloin, and I have 8 slices.
Okay.
Don't set it in the middle like I'm doing right now.
Don't do
Bad.
that.
What you're doing is get it close to the edge. I have it on wax paper. This is to help you to roll it.
Okay.
So if you can get wax paper, parchment paper, it's just going to make your life a little bit easier as you begin this rolling process. You can see that I've now moved that in. Hope you can see that now.
Yeah.
I'll go back a little ways and say, if you're trying to do it from the other way, it's going to make this process harder. So if we're cooking this, now we have a gap. And this is going to, if you ever seen bacon cook, it'll shrink and may fall off. Now you have a problem with your bacon wrap. So to ensure that every inch is covered correctly, you start with this. Make sure you have parchment paper. Put that there. Now, now, any pieces that you have, we're going to tuck underneath there. We got right there. Now, as that sits like that, we'll let that kind of tack up. We'll season that. And you put this in your oven, it actually has the shaping of a meatloaf.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to almost treat it like a meatloaf. If there's any tips that I could give you, the biggest mistake that you make when cooking is you cook for time and not for temperature. Always cook for temperature. Never cook on time. So we're looking for an end result of this piece of meat to be 150 degrees internally to 160. Ideally, you want to put it at 160. 160 is the preferred temperature on there, but that's what you're shooting for when you come to pork. If it takes you 30 minutes to get there, great. If it takes you 2 hours to get there, great. It's all going to depend, especially if you're smoking it, weather, wind, a lot of things play, a part into how you get to the internal temperature. But we want to start with this. If you're on a grill, an indirect grill of like a Weber, you want to do what's called an indirect, I can't say it right now, indirect heat. So you put coals on one side and it's cold on the other side, and you cook it on the side that doesn't have the direct heat. If you do it in your oven, I'm going to say go with 350. Plan on it going to be an hour and a half.
Okay.
But if it goes a little long, it's okay, because we all have different elevations, times, and stuff like that. So
yeah.
We're going to
Well,
take this
I got a
out.
question. I got a question for you.
Yeah.
So when you season the tenderloin, and I know you didn't do it because for time here, you're not doing the exact process, but you're telling us that after you seasoned over the bacon, would you also wait some time for that to set into the bacon before you put it on the grill? Typically,
Yes, you could.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah,
That's what I thought.
You would wait a few.
Okay.
And I wouldn't get too terribly worried about outside of the bacon. The reason why is because in the process of you cooking it on, say, a grill, you're going to check it every half hour.
Mm-hmm.
And you may re-season it again based off what it looks like.
Okay.
Because we're really worried about underneath that bacon.
Yeah.
Getting into that tenderloin. Out here, we're going to brush it with a glaze. We're going to do so many other things on the outside of it. But yes, you ideally want to make that weight.
Okay. Fair enough.
All right.
Thank
So
you.
let's take this with us. Let's try this again. This is the first. Is this going to work if I do this? All right. We'll follow the tenderloin. We'll follow
the walking tenderloin. Yeah.
It already looks good. Just all that bacon and the spice.
I want to make this one already. I guarantee you that. This is out of my wheelhouse here. I'm not wrapping things in bacon,
I got a beef tenderloin I'm going to do this with.
Yeah.
We're going to get this on the grill. And what we're going to do is magically, in how the world of show business works, which I have no idea how that works, we're going to pop open another grill, and we have a few of these already.
Damn,
magically.
Why don't you still live in St. Louis?
I don't know.
Yeah, get back here, man.
My wife had a choice. We would be back in St. Louis.
Let's listen to the wife.
Now,
Will's got a freaking food stylist on staff.
Yeah. Wow. I want one of those.
Let me close the pit. I'm sorry. I'm running back and forth. It's a beautiful day. I was kind of worried. It was raining earlier, and I'm thinking, this is not going to go good. This is not going to go good. Okay. All right. So we're going to find some lovely tongs. We're going to pick a nice one out.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Now we got a nice one there. All right. So, and we can see that tenderloin. Is that visible to everybody? No. All righty. So that's one that's been wrapped. It's been brushed with the glaze on there. Internal temperature, I'm sure, is where it needs to be, but let's get our tongs. So,
oh man,
ideally, you don't want any pink or anything in there. We got a nice little smoke ring on it.
Yeah.
But this is after, say, I think this is two hours at 300. At the oven, it would be about the same, about an hour and a half at 350. And again, you want to check this every 45 minutes and brush it with the glaze.
Okay.
So we got a few of them set up for that. We'll set those to the side. And our glaze is still bubbling over here. All right. Any questions so far? Anybody? Somebody?
Not a question, but that bacon technique is amazing. I've been doing a turducken for years that's bacon wrapped, kind of like a log, and we've always struggled with it. It takes 3 people. I've been using that from now on.
Yeah, that's a good tip, right? Yeah.
It's only been trial and error, my friend. You got a bacon wrapped turducken?
Yeah, we do like a flat breast, hammer it out, and roll it in a log, and wrap it in bacon. Yeah.
Yeah. Get the parsnip, man, and I'm done. I can't do it anymore. Sweetie, I need your help.
I think Winston needs to do a Thanksgiving special where he shows us his turducken.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. All right, just here. Just look at. Just hold it here. Right. Me. Right there. Thank you. My better half is helping me now. She refuses to be on.
You got a cameraman.
Chef.
Yeah.
Sorry for the mess. Okay, so, all right. Kudos on that bacon wrapped turducken. I got a turducken sitting in my freezer I need to cook that was supposed to be done last year. I'm going to have to smoke it. I haven't smoked a turducken yet, but I will one day.
All right. Well,
all right.
We'll get Winston to do that. We'll have him show it.
Winston, I need that recipe, bro.
Yeah.
I'll send it over. It came from Feast Magazine, actually.
Oh, well.
And Winston's also a St. Louis guy, too, by the way. So, yeah.
Really? What area, Winston?
Over in Creve Coeur.
Okay. Yeah. Is he the only St. Louis native on here right now? Where's everybody else?
No, the legend Rick Brenner. He's a St. Louis guy. So yeah, there's 4 of us all. St. Louis.
Columbus, Ohio.
Columbus, Ohio. Okay.
Home of the Buckeyes.
The Ohio.
Ohio State. Yes.
Question on that silver on the tenderloin, that tough silver stuff. Is there a kitchen instrument to take that off? Because I do a lot of work with pork cheeks, and that stuff is just covered with that silver harsh lining.
Your best friend is a filleting knife.
Okay.
For that. Except on ribs. On ribs, I would say a butter knife is your better bet. Your butter knife gets against the bone and is liable to, you can break that membrane up and rip it off. But on chunks of meat that don't have that bone to rest again, you want to use like this filleting knife. That goes with like briskets, roast, any chunk of meat that does not have a physical bone attached to it.
Right. Thank you.
Oh, anytime. All right, let's clean this mess up and let's start looking at our, well, let's go with the Brussels sprouts right now. I'm sorry, everybody's here. Let's go here. I'm gonna move this out of the way. You can stay there, babe. Again, this is not a professional show. All right, there's everything here. So, I don't know if everybody likes Brussels sprouts or not, but I absolutely,
Brussels sprouts are completely different when you just char them up. It just brings out those different sugars.
I absolutely adore Brussels sprouts when they charred up, especially on the grill. Between that and cauliflower, it makes a world of difference. This is not my day when it comes to this.
Yeah, it brings out those nutty notes.
Oh, okay. Is that still good right there? Can you still see me, Steve?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
we can see your preparation station there, so it's good.
Will, I want your cutting board.
Which one? This disaster right here?
Yeah, I actually really like that. I want it.
It is. I will give you the person who made this for me. It's a guy on Instagram that made this for me, and it's been tried and true. As you can see, it's kind of stained, but it has been going steady for like 3 years.
I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Send me the deets on that. Send me on Facebook.
Will do. I'll check it through Steve. Steve, you got our information, right?
Yeah, it's Christy Atkinson. She's on my team, so yeah. So she's
okay.
Easy to get.
Oh, never mind. I've seen that on the blog. I'm sorry.
Yep. Yeah, she's a writer for Bourbon Zeppelin, just like you. So
there you go.
As you're setting up, yes, Will is a writer. He does a column for us in the issue that comes out on the first of the month of Bourbon Zeppelin, where he's cooking with different whiskeys. So check out our email magazine, Bourbon Zeppelin, and you'll see some of his recipes. And it goes all over. He does desserts, he does food, side dishes. It just depends. So yeah, a little bit of everything with that.
All righty, let's see. Can I get this going the right way? All righty, so in actually your Brussels sprouts, as Christine was bringing out, the charring it is amazing. So I've done it 3 ways on here, and I'm gonna do it in a skillet. I've done it in the oven, and we're gonna put it in the smoker. And we're gonna add some things on there, probably not your typical with the Brussels sprouts, but it goes along with the actual meal that we're doing. So what's gonna go in that Brussels sprouts is we're gonna have some pre-done Brussels sprouts, onions, mushrooms, and when I get some space, I will add in some oranges. Amazingly, oranges go tremendously well with the bourbon. The notes, especially with the Willett one. So how we prepare this set of onions, we get a nice little saute going on in our pan with some butter. And you're gonna kind of caramelize your onions and mushrooms. I'm still checking to see if you see me.
Yeah, we'll shout if we don't, but yeah, you're good.
Okay.
Right now. Yeah.
All right. So what I did with these is I just pre-cut these, trimmed them, depending on where you can get your Brussels sprouts from. I go to the local market and sometimes to a restaurant depot we have out here, and just have them, cut them, and that's the best way to get these things. Also, just regular ceramic mushrooms and just a regular medium yellow onion on this. We have Walla Walla onions out here. I'm sure you guys have them there. Those are good and add another sweet note to that actual meal. And when it comes to Brussels sprouts, you want to add a little sweetness to detract from that, or at least add to it, not detract from it, but add to that nutty note that Christine was just bringing about. So on a medium to high temperature, you want to get your butter going until it's kind of like a light brown color to it. And let's see, we'll get this over here. Sweetie, you just hold this.
I love how Will has a sous chef.
It helps. It does. Is that a good view of that? Yeah, that's
yeah, yeah.
All right. You can pan over here. You can still see the sauce bubbling. This is going to be the glaze for the other stuff later.
Okay.
Great, back here. So if you see that, and I don't know if you can, let me get another light in here. It's kind of like a foam in there. All of it is not melting, but what you're looking for is this foam. It's a bubble note on the actual butter. You don't want to put it in too early because things are going to be soggy in there. And what you're trying to do, again, is to caramelize the onions, which is going to add this sweetness to this whole presentation. So, everybody see that foam?
Yep.
There should be a little bit of sizzle. We're going to add a little bit of these right here, these onions, mushrooms, and whatever rub you use, I'm going to use a little more of that rub. You can use salt and pepper, whatever you want to, but since this is going with the meal, I'm going to just use that rub on that. Mix this around, get that going. Get this color going right here. Now, as this kind of cooks up and bubbles up, we're going to try to get this to, again, caramelize. What we're going to add at this point, Matt,
a little up there, you know, pure Kentucky from
Kentucky to it. Whatever you do, don't go crazy on this. Two shots of that.
2 shots, okay.
We'll let that fester a little bit. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to add these oranges in there. Now the plan is not to actually cook it in this pan. We're just getting all the seasons together, all the flavors together. Now here's another these extra lines you see, don't get rid of them. Go ahead and put the juices in there. Now, there's no system in cutting this because we're going to get this into the oven at some point, or the smoker, whichever you're doing. All right, see that going on right there?
But that smells pretty good.
He said it smells good.
I would guess it smells pretty good.
And Will, like, I want to point out from a safety standpoint, I really appreciated that you pre-measured into your jigger rather than pouring from the bottle, because some people make that mistake where they pour it directly from the bottle and it can actually flame up if your heat's up too high. So you put it into the jigger. Really appreciate that.
Do it like that. I've learned my lesson.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. I noticed you did that. I'm like, he knows.
Unless your name is Bobby Flay, don't do that.
Don't do it. Okay.
All right. So let that go a little while right there. All right. Got a little salt in there. Oh, you smell that at all. Now I'm gonna go ahead and hit these in here. Now, I rub these with an olive oil.
Okay.
Pre-rub them. You don't have to. I just did. Again, we're not cooking it in here. I'm just trying to get all these flavors married together. Set your oven at 400. Try not to burn myself. You sit here, babe. Cool. Okay, let's put this here. All right, we'll put it on a sheet pan. I know that's cooking right now. We kind of disperse these out. Don't burn yourself there. Put it in the oven. And you know, magically, we have a whole nother set out that's already been roasted. Now, you can see the oranges in there, you can see the mushrooms in there. It's gonna get nice little char to it.
Do you have parchment paper on the bottom, or is it just the tin pan?
That's just the tin pan. You can't, I should have did the part of this paper, because this is gonna suck later cleaning this, but yes. I'm sorry, you have to clean it. I apologize, sweetie.
Oh.
We have to clean it. This is a collective effort. I hit it with another bit of the rub on there, but
okay.
You don't have to. Nice little char to it.
Yeah. How long was that in the oven for?
That was in the oven at 400 for about an hour and a half.
Okay. Okay.
And just to throw your taste buds off a little bit, some Parmesan cheese.
Okay.
And it seems weird, but it will go together just well.
It's all that nuttiness like marrying together.
It's like the craziest combination, and then with the subtle little hints of the oranges in there plus your rub, it does amazingly. Okay, so that is your Brussels sprouts. Excuse me, sweetie.
Nice. Look
That
delicious,
there.
by the way.
Back here. Let's clean my mess. Any other questions? No questions. No questions. All right.
With the citrus, would you see anything like an option? Would peaches work in there too as well instead of the oranges to get that more sugary and instead of the citrus taste?
Actually, that might not be a bad idea.
Will's gonna steal that
Especially
one.
if you
Will may
got
steal
some
that one.
bourbon.
Yeah.
If you got firmer ones, if you got the ones that were already, the pre-ripe ones would do better.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking that with the bourbon may flare up that bourbon flavor and heat that up a little bit to give those caramels more options to be in that recipe. I was just debating on that too when I was looking at that.
I'm now going to do that. I will get back with you. That'll be on the next writing blog as you're using the peaches.
There you go. Check out Bourbon's.
I got a subject now. Thank you. Yeah. I appreciate that.
And the peaches are starting to show up in the farmers markets right now too.
Yeah, this is perfect timing for those, man. Now you got me wanting to do a peach bourbon cobbler now, or oh geez, now this is getting sideways. I gotta go to the store. I'll be right back. Now, usually at this point, what I do is I go ahead and refill that old fashioned and just
top her off. Yeah.
Just. If it's going good, you just go to the top. If it's going bad, you just start drinking from the bottle. Just go straight from the bottle. All righty. So now we got the wings.
Yes. I love wings.
This typically would be your appetizer. It's going to be the quickest one that's going to cook. But this is the last one we prep up for a reason. Mm-hmm. Because by now you've got your pork tenderloin is going to be in there for easily 2 hours. Your Brussels sprouts are going to be in there an hour and a half. And depending on the temperature you render these at, this is going to be in there the least time. Now, as you can see, they look like they're pre-seasoned, but what I did was I brined these. And the brining technique, as I was kind of talking about earlier, is where you just sit this in a liquid form. All I had in there was some pineapple juice, some garlic, chives you can see there, and some of my barbecue seasoning, and a little salt. And the point of doing that brining, again, is to kind of, what you're doing is clogging up the pores. So as you smoke it or cook it, it keeps its moisture as you cook it. So brine chickens, turkeys, you can actually brine big pieces of beef. You can brine just about anything you want to. I've seen people brining fish. Be careful on that because you don't want to cure it and actually cook it in that process, depending on your mixture. But all I have in here is some oranges, pineapples, pineapple juice. There's some chunks of garlic, I can't talk, chives. And again, I'm going on your barbecue seasoning rub. You want to put something on there. I am not worried about flipping this. If you put this in the oven, don't worry about flipping it. You put this in your oven at 375, 400 on a tray like this. Leave this like this is. In about 30 minutes, when you pull it out, this when you want to flip it over and then re-season it again.
Okay.
This prevents from cross-contamination and the extra usage of tools is unnecessary. And since you're trying to get an even cook, you're going to actually season it through the process. So, come on, follow me, sweet. We're going to go out, and these are going out to smoker. We'll set that on a smoker. I have that at 300. Okay, follow me this way. Sorry, I messed up. We got to talk about the magic. This already happened.
Oh. Wow.
Now, these have been, I don't know how it happened, but they're done.
Will, how long did that take to get them like that?
This took about an hour and a half at
Okay.
300 to 310 degrees.
Okay.
About an hour and 15 minutes, I pulled them and I pulled the glaze on them.
Okay.
Excuse me.
So did you flip them at like the 45-minute mark, and then at the hour 15 do the glaze thing to them?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes. And I just put some of that.
Oh man.
The pineapple in there. Now, what I like to do on this. Ooh, that's hot. I personally like to just get that out the way. Add green onions to that.
Okay.
It's just something on a crunch to that. And I don't want to say it. It's too cliche. Bam. It's just, it's not right. It's so unprofessional. And then you just toss them in the sauce.
Okay.
And this sauce, again, is that whiskey sauce that had the pineapples, the cayenne. And if you want more heat on it at this point, I would hit it with whatever seasoning you got again, and I'll hit it with the seasoning again. So this has got more of a dry, wet seasoning to it. So it won't be too sticky, icky, but it will be done.
Those
now,
are great.
if you've ever smoked any meat before, and you've seen the smoke ring, a lot of people panic when they see chicken and they see a pink color on it, on that ring. And like, it's not done, it's not cooked. Again, everything is about temperature. You always want to check temperature. So as long as your chicken is over 150 degrees, you're done. So that's all you're worried about is on the temperature and out of it. When it's done, it's 150, 160 degrees. You should be safe to eat it.
Okay.
That should be. You are safe to eat it. I apologize for the verbiage on that. So let's go put this back here. We got one last thing to do.
Okay.
Out of the way.
Steve, are you going to send us the recipes?
There was a question?
Is Steve going to send us the recipes?
Yes, for sure.
Okay. Yeah, if you send them to me, Will, I can send them to the group. And also, if you want to see for technique or anything like that, the session is recorded and it'll be available. We'll have it on my website, abvnetwork.com. You click on shows and then video. The video shows we put out there. If you want to see,
this is not proper technique.
It's as close as we get. We know you're doing some things just for the show here. So
you're doing just fine.
Yeah, I think it's been amazing what you've been able to do, my friend. It's really cool.
All right, here's the last one. This is an added bonus that I didn't talk to Steve about.
Okay.
But I saw it yesterday and I freaked out on it. I saw it. So this is a warm bacon dressing for a salad that's going to be used with Brussels sprouts. Okay, let's get this there. So we're going to do the bake. We're going to do that. Some onions, some bacon.
Steve, he's speaking my language. There's bacon and onion.
Yeah, I don't know what he's got going on here.
So this was a bacon. It was actually a salad, but they made this bourbon dressing it was a vinaigrette that went with the actual salad with Brussels sprouts. So I saw it, I freaked out and said, I'm gonna try it.
Okay.
I physically haven't eaten it, but we're going to do it live.
All right.
We've got
Again,
the
it's
exclusive.
I apologize. So we're going to get that in there. Now, I mentioned something earlier about deglazing. I think I did. If not, I apologize, but I meant to say that. As your stuff starts to render, you start seeing the discoloration at the bottom. Any show you look at, they talk about deglazing. That's where all your seasoning's at. That's where the flavor's at. So you don't want to lose that. As this is cooking at a high temp, the only way to get that out of there is introduce a liquid or some kind of form to loosen up all of those seasonings in there. So we want that kind of discoloration and burnt going on. So when we introduce a little bit of our whiskey and a little bit of water, we're going to actually get all of those flavors out. Again, I'm going to do the professional thing. We're going to measure this.
Okay, safety first. All right.
But on this one, I'm going to use something a little bit better. We're going to go with the nose. I know it sounds sacrilegious, but when you're cooking, the better ingredients you use, the better the meal will be.
I know that's one of your favorites, so yeah.
I'm gonna add a little more pineapple juice to this.
Okay.
Now you can see all those liquids. You see all that come up?
Yep.
Can you see that? Is that a good visual?
That works, yeah. No, I can see what you're saying.
Now we're getting all of those flavors out of there.
Yeah. This is great. This is excellent, by the way. Everything you're doing is great.
Now we're getting it. Now, so on top of that, watch that a little bit. Right. Here's where it gets interesting. Wow. Okay. We're going to add a little bit of this bourbon maple.
Okay.
Syrup. That was like a quarter of a cup.
Will, did you say it was bourbon barrel maple?
Yes, there was a bourbon barrel maple. Some, I think like Woodinville has one. There's a few actually distilleries are now making like a bourbon infused maple.
You can find it at Kroger in Kentucky too.
Okay, so this was a version of Kroger's out here at Safeway that I got it from. Or Fred Meyer. The actual sweetness, I'm going to add a little apple cider.
Okay.
Which was in the actual recipe. All right. We'll let that glaze up. I turn down the heat to a low so that actually becomes a little glaze.
So it's almost like you're making a bacon jam.
It is almost like that, but we're gonna add some water to loosen that up a little bit. Get a pinch of salt in there. I'll get some pepper in there. We'll let that cook and render down a little bit.
Okay.
And then once that cooks and renders down, I've taken some shaved Brussels sprouts. I couldn't think of it. We'll put that in there. We'll toss that a little bit. Now you got this warm Brussels sprout salad. And then from this point, once you've let it cooked, you can just serve this. It's kind of almost like a variation of a warm potato salad, but this is Brussels sprouts with bourbon, onions.
That looks awesome. Boy, I wish I was there.
Yes, next time we do one of these, it's at Will's house. Yeah.
Deal.
I just want to put that
We'll
on
let
top
that
of
go.
a sausage.
Oh,
Reading my mind. I'm thinking like a dressing on top of a brat or a
Yep, a
Italian
slaw.
sausage or something. Exactly.
I need to get some kibasas like right now. You guys are inspiring me. I need to go get to the store ASAP. Okay, let's get some of this mess out of the way. Put this cork back here. Put this here. As this renders down a little bit, we're gonna let that cook a little bit. Get our onions out of the way. Simple syrup here. All right. I'll see. Oh man, that sausage is looking good. All right. Any questions?
Yeah. Anybody got any questions for Will? First of all, Will, before we get to questions, while we still got everybody together and their attention, I just want to thank you for this today's job that you did. Incredible, really great job, and well thought out. And I know you had to do work beforehand, all the prep and all that stuff. I mean, you put a lot into this, man, and it was fantastic. So thank you. A little round of applause, whether you or not.
My pleasure.
Yeah. Great job there, buddy.
Thank you. I love it. Thank you very much.
I'll second that, Steve. That was really a fantastic hour and a half. On your side dishes, do you just vibrate on those, or do you read something and then add your own touches, or how does that go?
That's a very good question. So on top of living on social media, I live on Pinterest. So I take a lot of recipes that I see that look okay in Pinterest, and I tweak it from there and like, okay, this looks like good. It might be whatever the recipe, like this vinaigrette one was just it popped up with Brussels sprouts. And I was like, you know what? That would do good with a bourbon. I can see how we can mix this. So yeah, I kind of vibe with whatever we have. Again, like the whiskey glaze, I had it at TGIF Fridays years ago and I never forgot it. And when I found it, I was like, okay, how do I make this different? I don't want to have to use Jack Daniels for this. What do I make this different? So, yeah, just vibe with what I got.
Thank you.
Oh, no worries.
Oh, Will?
Yes.
First of all, this was quite enjoyable. And this is coming from an elevator mechanic who does all the cooking in the house. One who is right now has 3 slabs of baby backs on a smoker in a ring.
Ooh, he's an amazing cook, by the way.
Yeah, the legend is a good cook for sure.
Well, I know what you say about looking at recipes and then tweaking them. I make homemade pralines.
Yeah,
Recipe,
I got some of those.
I
had those.
Recipe calls for milk, but I thought if milk is good, heavy whipping cream would even be better. And it is.
It is.
I love you, man. I love you. That's good.
What kind of smoker or grill do you use?
So I have 2 Green Mountains. Then I have a couple of Weber Smoky Mountains. And I have just a regular Weber. I'm building 2 more of them at my workplace. Indirect smokers with the old storage tanks. But yeah, those are the ones I have.
Are any of them pellet grills?
Yes. Green Mountain is a pellet grill.
Okay. Because I've had a Traeger for about 6 years.
Okay.
And I absolutely love it.
So everything I was talking about was based off of the pellet when the smoker is so it's no difference in my humble opinion. There's like 3 or 4 at the top. Your Traegers, your Green Mountains, Louisiana Grill, and there's one other one that are and it's just whatever feature you want on there.
Right.
And they do the same.
I've got a small one because it's just my wife and I, and I can still put 5 slabs of ribs on this thing.
Yeah.
But I've actually got a cold smoker on the side of it.
Ooh.
So I can smoke pork bellies and cheeses and whatnot and fish.
Nice.
Without actually cooking it.
I like that. I want to try those pralines, man. I want to hear the pralines. Steve's talking about these pralines. I want to talk to these pralines.
They're great. Yeah.
Rick,
he brought me over a bag of them. Yeah.
Rick, have you ever thought about smoking a praline? Dang.
You'd almost have to cold smoke it because of sugar and everything else. The heat to get to it. I'm not too sure because even on the cold smoker, it still gets maybe 100 degrees in there.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But, I think you could pull it off.
Other thing,
you got to try it.
Will, have you ever done any baking on your pellet grill?
I have.
It's because I do pies. There is nothing like I do a rustic peach. So fresh peaches, rustic meaning it's a free form in a pan, the filling and no top, and I bake it and I smoke it. And the funny thing about it is it imparts a savory flavor to it, but you can't tell that it's really you'd be hard pressed to say that it was smoked.
Right.
But they turn out fantastic.
I have done one on a Traeger. I did an apple pie that had bacon and bourbon in it. I made a bacon jam, almost like the one we just saw here, and we did it on a apple pie. So we mixed it into the apple pie with the bacon and stuff, and everybody seemed it was okay. There was no complaints.
Oh, I know. My 94-year-old mother-in-law, whose her favorite fruit is peach, I baked one for her, or smoked one for her, and she's like, "Oh my God, this is delicious. What did you do to it? There's something different. I can't put my finger on it." I really liked it.
I promise you I will be doing the peach here in the next few days. I can promise that.
All right. Yeah. Let us know how that goes for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for our friend Will here?
Not a question, but thank you for doing this. This was awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. This is... I'm going to sleep a day now because I was so nervous and worried about this.
Oh, it was great, man. It looks like you do this all the time. I'm not kidding you. I'm not kidding you. It was very professional, very well done. You did great, man. And your setup was awesome. You got to see you talking. You got to see you doing the actual stuff. It was very cool.
I've taken a lot of cooking courses for $50, $75, $80, and this can match any of them.
There you go.
Wow. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, you need to do more of these, Will.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was in the restaurant business for about 15 years, and I've seen a lot of demonstrations, and that's right up there. I can tell you did a lot of preparation on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, man. Steve, I guess we got to do another one, man.
Yes, and everyone who's on here, tell your friends. I mean, we should have had more people than this. It's almost embarrassing, really. I mean, we should have had at least 3 times as many as we had.
We will, especially once we share the video and people get
the video will be out there, and they're going to know how good it is. I guess it's tough to take a chance on something we don't know, but it just couldn't have been any better, Will. I'm not kidding you. If you're looking for feedback, there's nothing that can improve. Yeah.
Let me know how I can actually send it out there. I mean, it's out just spreading the word in all my different platforms.
I'll put it out there today. When we get done here, I'll go down, and it takes a little while for it to render and load. But I'll have it out there, and I'll email it to you as soon as I get it on the website. So.
Yeah, we can do more of this, and I can be a little better prepared for this. So. I appreciate all you guys' kind words. I thank you tremendously for me and my family. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
It was great. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, guys. Yeah, thanks so much for joining us today for this virtual bourbon event. My name is Steve Akley on behalf of my friend Will Whitfield. Thanks a lot for joining us today.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Will.
Thanks.
Thank
Will.
you much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah. Steve, if you want